So don't let them steal your life.
Let's see, okay guys, should we see what this stuff looks like in practice? A lot of you know how feminists talk and how feminists act, and I feel a lot of it is like do as I say, not as I do. Because you'll see a lot of these feminists that are like, women are empowered and all this stuff, and then when you ask them how they're empowered, they say silly things like, you know, they don't have to change the way they are for men and stuff like this, and they do stuff like trying to make men feel bad for being attracted to a certain thing, like saying, you know, we as women aren't going to wear bras, which men don't really give a fuck anyways, or we're not going to shave our armpits, you know, men gotta like us with hairy armpits, stuff like that, you know. So this is supposed to be empowering. Well, we're going to talk about somebody that acts like she's empowered, is a feminist, and still understands that the third wave feminists are fucking crazy, but still calls herself a feminist, and how she portrays that to everybody is being a wastoid drug addict, got off drugs, got back on drugs, got off drugs, got back on drugs, plays the victim card, is a multi-million-dollar star, can be making money herself, and decides to become broke because she can't handle being on her own because she's a victim. She can play that victim card. She loses all of her money. Then she sells the inheritance to her ex-husband who killed himself, 20% of it, so that she can make money, so that she can support herself and continue to make albums, even though they call her the Queen of Rock. Now, if I think of somebody that I would call the Queen of Rock, I would think of like Heart. I might think of Pat Benatar, Joan Jett, somebody like that. That would be who I would suppose would be the King of Rock, the Queen of Rock, you know, the Duchess of Rock. But they call her the Queen of Rock. And they call her that because she's a drugged out kokor, and shows her ass basically every chance she gets. And what we're going to talk about today is the way these women act. She actually says in this interview that she does that she got out of rehab 3 months ago. When this interview was done, she's on Ambien, or a drug like Ambien. She takes 2 of those, and she's drugged out, smoking cigarettes. She's got a daughter that doesn't really like her that much because she's a total crazy fucking retard, and she has these people who follow her around, try to keep her out of trouble, and she's talking to Carrie Fisher, saying that she wants to find love. She wants to find true love, and she wants to have a baby. When she's 3 months out of rehab and taking drugs and is a total psycho. And that she would, if she can't find love, she at least wants to find somebody to have nookie with. So let's see this train wreck.
Courtney's only been out of rehab for 3 months. Her situation is vulnerable. She's still an addict in recovery.
I just, you know,
really want
like a cold sweat.
Want some drugs?
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, a lot.
Courtney rebelled in every way she could, ending up in and out of juvenile hall, travelling the world and sampling its extremes, from stripping in Korea to hanging out with British pop stars in Liverpool.
I do remember not having any good social skills, although I learned them later. I learned them from hanging out at a gay disco and learning them from drag queens, and I learned them in Liverpool. I learned them in juvenile hall. So I learned from like future criminals, drag queens, and rock stars.
So she learned her social skills from people who were social but fake. Because if you're a drag queen, you're pretending to be something that you're not. Basically a woman, or you put on a persona, you're doing a character. And she learned her way of being from that. She's basically had stated that she had no personality until that. So her idea of a personality is somebody who is pretending to be someone else. That's empowering.
Their relationship seems strong and loving, but there were moments when Courtney spoke of how destructive being separated from her daughter has been.
She said to me, I used to think you were the greatest person in the world, and then that stuff happened in the last 2 years, and now I don't trust you anymore.
Francis said that.
Yeah. And when she doesn't have a dad and stuff, it's hard.
I mean, the trauma of
Department of Children's Services.
Yeah.
There was no need for that. Who are these fucking people to get mad at me when I'm more famous than them? That's the bottom line. You know what I mean? It's I'm a lightning rod. It happens.
Here we have narcissism.
Linda and the band were getting ready for another take in the next room, and as Courtney waited, she suddenly rocked forward and then rolled onto the carpet and began to fall asleep. It was an odd moment. To be honest, my first thought was whether she'd taken something or whether she was okay. I didn't really know what to do. I watched as her hand, holding a lit cigarette, slowly drifted towards the carpet.
Yeah.
But first, we talked about how the courts check if she's clean and sober.
How do they keep tabs on you?
Well, I have to do testing. I'm not going to have to do testing very soon, in a month. I won't have to do testing anymore.
Oh, for a whole year? For a year they've been testing you?
Yeah. Since
you left rehab, they test you, every week or so?
Yeah, once a week. I take something called Abilify, and Abilify, I don't take anything narcotic. I've tried to go without it.
Now, Abilify is a medication that she later got off. She was told by a doctor, quote unquote, that it would help her, and she took it for many years and she got addicted to it, and she came down off of it recently. But basically, if she goes back on drugs, here we have a multi-million-dollar recording artist who the welfare services are going to take her kid. They're going to take her child from her because she's so fucked up. She can't keep her life together because she's the queen of rock. So she has to drink and do drugs and play the victim card and be a total loser, basically, even though she's very talented. She's talented, but only in the way she writes music, only in what she does for music. The rest of her life is a fucking train wreck. And this is typical for most women. She's going through her whole life hoping that she can find a guy, because she basically, for most women, a guy is their pivot point. They need that there to allow them to grow, and to grow by using the man. The man is basically the ATM. The man is where they get their money from, where they get their inspiration from. Basically gives them a sense of life. Allows them to stop the man from doing things, so it kind of gives them a purpose. They can say, you know, they're controlling you. They're leading you to a place where they want to be. So for a woman, this is what they feel they're supposed to do, and without that, they're like a garden hose flailing in the wind. You know, they have no purpose. And lots of feminists try to act like this isn't the case, but with MGTOW and herbivore culture, this is what's coming, basically. These women that have no idea how to parent, who are complete crazed lunatics, basically, trying to raise children, having no idea how to do it, are children themselves, and all they want is to be loved and liked, yet they have no idea, they have no personality, they have nothing to offer in a relationship, yet they still feel they deserve a relationship, even though they have absolutely nothing to offer another person.
At night, I take this one called Sonata, and that's a little controversial because it's related to Ambien. And
now she has all these great friends, like Carrie Fisher, the wonderful and beautiful, talented actress, you know, a wonderful, wonderful girl, you know, wonderful woman. And here she is talking about she just wants to find a lover, she wants to find a marriage. And throughout this entire interview, she's talking about she wants another baby. She wishes she had another baby. Complete crazy. I mean, this woman, 3 months out of rehab, taking drugs, Ambien, and all these things that are prescription drugs, but still, there's a reason why you're on these. It's like a, you know, it's like a psychotic saying that I want to have kids, you know. It's nobody's saying like you can't handle a child, you can barely handle yourself, but they want to be yes men for her, you know, and tell her like it's all going to be all right. Yeah, you deserve to find somebody to love you, not the fact that you're a complete crazed lunatic. That none of that matters. You deserve to find love and have a baby. You know, even though you can barely take care of yourself, and you know you're a drug addict and an alcoholic, and you can barely take care of yourself, but you should go ahead and have another kid because you know you can blame it on a man.
exactly.
What do we have to do to not be in the tabloid?
Not go
Can't
out
do
with people who are
drugs.
tabloidy.
That's good. And we can't kiss and tell, which she's not doing.
No. Nor have I ever.
The only thing that you can't do is not get wisdom from your episodes. I mean, the scary thing, and maybe this is really in this.
What about love?
Oh, I know, but you know, after I've made as many bad choices as I have to assume that the choices are mine. I'm not a victim, and neither are you.
Now, did you hear that? This is something that is wisdom that is learned through years, and you have these 18-year-old feminists who are telling men it's all their fault, all men are dogs, blah, blah, blah. Here's Carrie Fisher saying that after as many bad choices as she's made, that she has found that the choices were hers, that it wasn't them, it wasn't the men, it was her fault. And she's not a victim. It was her fault. She chose that. This is something that a lot of women don't want to own up to, and some women will never own up to. It's your fault. All men aren't dogs. All men that you choose are dogs. That's what they need to understand. Because you pick fucked up dudes, that doesn't mean all dudes are fucked up. That means the guys you pick up are fucked up, which means you are fucked up, not them.
We're choosing these people, so I have to assume that the choice, my choice thing is broken. So
That your compass is fucked.
yeah, I just
Is that because I'm coming to that conclusion that my compass is fucked?
yeah, and if we get
Does that make me like a
you're
professional
not
spinster?
mistreated, you're choosing the people that are doing this. I don't know it. No, it's your point of view that
What
you're
about
a
Nookie,
spinster. Nookie, yes, unless you get hurt too much.
Right.
I mean, I really couldn't say. You're not lonely if you choose friends to be with.
Yeah,
or
no,
you have
no.
to find companions to be with.
I have songs.
You're going to have to be with someone that you like and not are in love with.
I see.
You get really stirred up and crazy when you're in love.
I know.
You know that.
Yeah.
And that's not a good place
And it makes
for you
good
to be.
records.
Yes.
But
So
it
if you can
fucks me up.
stand it, if you
Now, this is Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, one of her ex-boyfriends, that's helping her, white knighting for her, helping her do her album. And he is still a doting guy, still loving her, still wanting to take care of her, and she's using him still. She's still got him on a leash. She's already monkey branched, yet she's still holding on to that other branch, And he talks about how narcissistic she is, how basically just like most women, the world revolves around them. And here he is, a multi-million-dollar man who's made millions and millions of dollars on albums. And here he has this woman who doesn't even respect him, who he is actually watching her show, watches everything about her show, so that he can give her ideas on what she can do to make her show better, what she can do about sound quality, things like that. He wants to help her. When he comes on stage, she's nowhere to be found. And when he does actually find her, she's standing on a table getting ready to show her maybe vagina to some guy while he's on stage, because she's drugged out, acting like a complete loser. And this is where feminism, and it's not just feminism, but it's just feminine nature. This is where these women are at mentally. They have no idea of what it means to be faithful or true or kind or doting to another person. Women, it's all about them. It has to be 100% about them, and if it's not, they'll make your life a living fucking hell.
We're dating. And
Courtney, you were dating?
you didn't know that? You guys dated?
God, I don't know
We almost got
anything.
married. What?
I have no idea.
Well, I always say we almost got married. I thought we were going to get married. Whatever.
I was in love.
I was in love. We wrote a bunch of songs for each other.
So for a while, her band would open for mine, but we'd play these places like 50 people kind of places. So, me being, the doting boyfriend, of course, I'd sit and watch the whole set.
Doting? What? Go on. I'm sorry. I was just kidding.
No, I would sit and watch this. I would sit and watch your whole set, so later on, I could give you feedback on the show, and this is the way I am.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
So, of course, I, faithfully watch her set. So, of course, the idea was she should be faithfully watching my show, which, of course, never happened. So we're playing this place in Philadelphia, and I'm on stage, and I'm playing, and we're rocking out, and I look up, and I'm like,
the sax.
wait. So I look up, and I'm like, what the fuck is that bitch? And I'm getting madder and madder. I can't find her, And the club's really small, so I should be able to see her. So I look up, and I kind of spot her out of the corner of my eye, and she was standing on a table. That's why I hadn't seen her, because I kept looking at the audience. She was standing on a table in the corner of the club, and so I spot her, and I look at her, and just as I spot her, she's standing with some guy on the table, and she's lifting her skirt, and she's showing him her underwear.
So you can see how this is how narcissistic women are. Now, the biggest thing that I would say about this whole situation is she's supposed to be a queen of rock, and she's been in a band since when she was with Kurt Cobain. So she should be worth multi-millions of dollars. The only reason why she is worth multi-millions of dollars is because she took 20% of Kurt Cobain's legacy and sold it to someone, which they gave her $50 million. She used that to do more things, and she's been in a string of movies, I mean, now she's worth like a couple $100 million, but she was broke. She literally was broke, you know. And here she is, this multi-million dollar, you know, rock goddess apparently, and she can't even keep it together. And she's a mother, you know. She has a daughter to take care of, and she can't even, you know. Most people, I mean, even a man would realize if you were with a woman and she blew her head off, you know, and you had a 18-month-old baby, you would probably, somebody would tell you, even as a man and your other friends, somebody would tell you, dude, you should go talk to somebody, you know. That's gotta be fucking you up inside, man. You gotta go talk to somebody. Nobody told her that? Nobody ever told her that? Which makes me think, like, who the fuck are you surrounding yourself with? What kind of people are you surrounding yourself with when nobody gives a fuck about you enough to say, look, you need to go see somebody? That shit's gonna fuck you up inside, and you're gonna get worse and worse. That shit's gonna eat you up. You need to go see somebody. Nobody told her that. Nobody fucking tried to take care of her. If that's the case, then you need to really think about who the fuck you're surrounding yourself with. Because that's fucked up. But what's more fucked up is that you had a child to take care of. And that nobody not only cared about you, but didn't care about the child either. Because when they see the way you're acting, they have to know it's not a very far stretch to see why you're acting that way. You know, that you weren't that bad off, you weren't that fucking crazy. Yeah, you were doing heroin and shit like that, but you weren't that bad off when you were with Kurt. You know, you had a life. You were out on tour, you were out doing things, you were doing alright. Once he died, you became a complete fucking narcissistic psychotic. And it's not hard for other people that are watching that happen to say, look, it happened because he killed himself. We should probably get her in to see somebody. She should talk to somebody about it. If nobody said that to you, then you need to think about who you were surrounding yourselves with, because you're not a victim. You know, nobody should have to tell you that. But the fact that nobody did tell you that, if they didn't, should say something about the people who are hanging around you. That they're leeches. They're leeching off of you. And this is the problem I have with a lot of these people. These women who are in the limelight. They're in the spotlight. And they're supposed to be empowering women. There's a lot of women who will say this woman empowers them. How? How can she empower you? Look at the way she's living her life. Is this the way any woman should want to live? Is this the way any woman should want to raise her child? To be in and out of court trying to fight to keep their child so that they can still do drugs and still be in and out of drug clinics? This is what women consider empowering? How? How is this empowering in any way? To have a life that's a train wreck, and then to live your whole life as a victim, it's like, what the fuck? This is 12 years after Kurt Cobain died. I think this was done in 2006, so it's pretty old. But she's been in and out of rehab since this even, you know. It was only just a few years ago when she stopped taking those drugs that were like Ambien, you know. So she took those for many years and got drugged out on those, and then tried to say she was clean, you know. She's full natty, you know. So it's crazy that people can be this narcissistic, and she's just living. I mean, I think it's partly because of where she's at. Most of these stars that have been stars since they were kids, and they're in this kind of little bubble of all these people that they know that are stars, they really have no touch with reality. They don't understand what reality is. And, you know, there was the story, I remember hearing about Cher, where she was with Kathy Griffin, and they were going to order a pizza, and Cher was like, I don't know how to order a pizza, you know. I mean, she has people to do that for her, you know, things like this. These people are who people strive to be. You know, you want to live in a life where you don't take care of your child. You're coked out and drugged out every day of your life. You can barely function in society, and you can't order your own pizza. You know, this is what women find empowering, apparently. Now, she's got movie and theater roles that she's been in multiple films. You know, she's been in, I don't know, 5-10 films or so since in the last, like, 15 years or so. You know, and with all the movie roles she's done, she had to sell 20% of Kurt Cobain's royalties, which is, I would say, even though she was married to him, they were only married for a couple years, I would say that's the daughter's legacy. That's Kurt Cobain's daughter's legacy. That's her money. Yet she sells that so that she can continue on with her life, even though she's done all of these things in her life. She's the Queen of Rock. Yet she doesn't have money to survive and do her life because she's so extravagant with the way she lives. And because of that, she has to sell her daughter's legacy to continue to live.
Having managed to lose $20 million in her drug-fueled days, she was close to being broke. But all that's set to change. Today, Courtney and her manager Peter Asher are going public with her decision to sell 25% of the Kurt Cobain song catalogue to an investor for a reported $50 million.
Press release all done.
So, like I say, she's going to sell this. This is her, she's selling 25%, which means that's still 75% of the song catalog left to her daughter. But I would guarantee that she has all of the rights in her name and not her daughter's. I'll guarantee it. I would guarantee that she is the controlling interest in that, even though the daughter should be the controlling interest. That should be the daughter's inheritance. And the mother should have very little to do with it because it doesn't really have a lot to do with her. But it's a way for her to, even after Kurt Cobain's death, to play the victim and still take money from Kurt. Still use him as an ATM machine. She's living off of his knowledge, off of his wealth, off of his success. You know, she would be kind of a, I believe if they would have just divorced and Kurt Cobain, you know, would have never killed himself or whatever like that, and they would have, like, you know, Kurt would have got sober and she would have continued to be the way she is or whatever, and she would have went on her merry way, and they would have just got custody of the two kids. She would have been a mediocre rock sensation, you know, like a mediocre star, you know, like Lisa Loeb in 9 Stories, something like that, where she's like, people know who she is, but she's, you know, she's just somebody who plays music, you know. The only reason why she is where she is because she's Kurt Cobain's widow, you know, and that's how she's living. That's how she lives her life. She's able to make money off of Kurt Cobain's passing. Now she talks about being broke and how she, you know, the thing I keep wanting to harp on in this is that she's been in multiple movies. You know, when you think about it, she's probably made at least $1 million per film, you know, that she's been in. And she's been in multiple movies, you know, even cameos and cameo appearances and stuff. So she's made it probably at least $10-15 million just off of movie roles, you know, not to mention her multiple albums that she's put out. Yet she's broke because she spent $20 million on drugs. $20 million on drugs. It's hard to wrap your head around that. Not only that she spent $20 million on drugs, but that she had a daughter to raise while she was doing those $20 million worth of drugs, and she still considers herself a good mother. This is only something that can happen to a woman. This is only something that a woman could feel. Still have this idea in her mind that she's a good mother and a good person and a feminist. Because this is empowering. This is empowering to womanhood. This is an empowering woman, a rock star, who's a complete joke, who has spent her whole life living off of somebody else's merits, who is not able to barely take care of herself. She needs handlers. She needs people to take care of her, and those people don't even give enough fuck about her to tell her that she needs to stop and that she needs to see somebody. You know? Another person that had this same idea, that had this same thing go on to them, that I would like to slap because she was 100 times more talented than this woman, is Amy Winehouse. She was our Billie Holiday. You know? She was our light, she was our generation's main songstress. She was the person she was basically our Aretha Franklin. She was an amazing talent, and the reason why she's dead is because nobody went in there to her house, took all the drugs, threw them in the toilet, broke all her bottles of alcohol, and slapped her in the face and told her, look, bitch, you gotta get sober. This is fucking stupid. Stop acting like this. You're a talented, beautiful woman, and quit acting like this. This is completely stupid. Because she had nobody that did that, she's dead. And here we have Courtney Love in the same situation. Very hard to believe she didn't train wreck out.
I was broke for 4 years, and really broke. And to be a broke celebrity is weird. But, being broke is horrible. As everybody who's broke, and most people are, know. Being broke and really famous, no one believes you're broke. So, I think talking about money is pretty unseemly, but I will say that it feels good to know that I can take care of Kurt's mom and my friend with cancer, and that Frances can have whatever she wants, and that, for God's sake, if I really want to, I can lease an Aston Martin. Not that I'm going to be a prat and do that, but, I can think about it.
Here we are, a woman who is only 3 months out of rehab, has a child that she's still having to take drug tests once a week or a few times a week to make sure that she's not using, so that she can keep custody of her own daughter. 3 months out of the clinic, still taking drugs that are on par with Ambien, basically, so she's still drugged out. That's why she acts the way she does. She's still on some crazy drugs trying to keep her sober, which she's not sober. And she starts discussing having a child. She wants a child. These women are completely psychotic. First of all, acting like this, the only man that's going to want to hang out with you, acting like this, is a white knight mangina simp. And they're not going to love you. They're going to want to be with you because you have money. And because you're Kurt Cobain's ex. Not because you're a beautiful woman, that you're talented, that you're wonderful, blah, blah, blah. Because you're not. You're a psychotic. They're going to be with you because of what they can get from you. And then she can say, all men are losers. All men are horrible. Because of the men she's looking for.
I'm still very ambitious. I'm still like an ambitious girl, but I'm also very much, as we're talking about, thinking about like I want a baby.
So that's what I figured we'd talk about today. I have a lot of respect for Courtney Love. Kurt Cobain died when I was 21. That's, I grew up listening to Kurt Cobain's music and, Nirvana and, all that kind of stuff. All the Seattle rock, that kind of all came about when I was from the age of about 17 to about 22 or so. So that was my era. A lot of kids, they know the music, but they obviously they weren't even born when the stuff came out. So I mean, they were, lots of the kids that are listening to Nirvana, that wear the Nirvana shirts, it's not really, they don't understand the what it was like when he came out, So this, like I say, this is what it was like when I was a kid. And it's really sad to see that his legacy is in her hands, that this narcissistic woman who has some idea that she is, I don't know what she thinks she is, but she's got a lot of yes men around her telling her that she's whatever she thinks she is. And when you listen to her music, there's been a lot of people that have compared her to Kurt Cobain, where she's basically writing the same kind of music. And when you listen to her music from back then, when Hole was, back in the 90s, and the music that she writes now, it's basically the same stuff. The same beats, the same style, the same grunge, that kind of Seattle grunge. She's still kind of writing the same things, which basically makes her kind of irrelevant. It makes her basically dated. Her music is very dated, which is what tells me she's not the Queen of Rock. For me, the Queen of Rock, if you want to say somebody is the Queen of Rock, I would probably say the lead singer for Heart. She would be the Queen of Rock. Somebody like that. There's a lot of amazing female singers who are talented, who write their own music. Lita Ford, Lita Ford hasn't really been in the limelight the way a lot of stars have, but she's still out there, still touring, still jamming on guitar, stuff like that. So she's pretty much where Courtney Love is, but she's a much better star, So I mean, there's a lot of talented people. I wouldn't even consider her up there. The only reason why they consider her that is because, like I've been talking about in this video, she's Kurt Cobain's widow. And Kurt Cobain, apparently, was the king of rock, which most people would consider that to be Elvis, but I would probably consider that to be Maynard, or Chris Cornell. For those of you who don't know who Maynard is the lead singer for Tool and A Perfect Circle. And those are my two favorite singers, is Maynard and Chris Cornell. And I would think for my generation, obviously you have Metallica and, stuff like that. As for guitarists, I would consider Joe Satriani and Steve Vai to be the main guys. Marty Friedman, stuff like that. But when it comes to women, being the Queen of Rock of the 80s, I would have to go with Heart, somebody like that, So, like I say, they have these names that they give themselves that's just narcissistic, and they're just feeding into their own bullshit, So, if you guys got any questions, leave them in the section below. you know, Narcissism at work. Lovely, lovely. Thanks for watching, and share, like, and subscribe.
So don't